They told me the quiet would drive me mad. They were wrong. The quiet heals, or at least it numbs like frostbite on a wound too deep to mend. And out here, drifting beyond the far ring of Cassiopeia Theta, wrapped in the humming embrace of a dying ship, quiet is all I have left. Except, tonight I heard a knock. Not metaphorical, not imagined, not the creak of failing alloys or the groan of ice fracturing along the hull. A knock. 3 soft raps. Then silence again, like the stars holding their breath. I sat frozen in my chair, hands trembling above the control panel, as if moving might scare the sound away or confirm it was real. 73 days since the explosion in the middeck, 59 since the distress beacon burned out, 32 since the food synthesizer jammed itself into permanent stasis. I'd stopped counting hours after that. But now, something knocking on a ship that's been drifting without another soul for millions of miles. I should have been afraid. Instead, I whispered his name, cLIcK. It slipped from me like breath on cold glass. I hadn't said it in weeks, maybe longer, not since the moment he unlatched the outer door with his gloved hands, face calm behind the visor, voice steady when he said, "I'll be right back." He wasn't. I searched for him for hours, sent drones, scanned, cried, nothing, no suit ping, no voice, no body, just gone, like a ripple fading into vacuum. But tonight, this knock, it came again, and this time I followed it, down past the frost-bitten corridor where moss glow algae still clings to the walls, past the sealed airlock cLIcK walked through the day he vanished. I stopped, placed my gloved hand on the metal, and heard it, a whisper, so soft I thought it lived in my own mind. My name. Spoken in the voice I thought I'd forgotten how to remember. I opened the hatch. Air hissed past my ears, sharp as needles. The chamber beyond was dark, but not empty. He stood there, unchanged, helmet off, skin pale but whole, eyes wide, like the day we first breached the nebula. He didn't smile, he just watched me. "You died," I said, too stunned to feel anything but cold disbelief. "You left me." I tried to come back, his voice was glass over water, fragile and clear, but the rift, it doesn't let go so easily. The rift. The anomaly we chased, a flicker in space-time wrapped in magnetic storms and theories no one had dared test, until cLIcK, he always needed to know to reach past the edge. And now he was standing here like no time had passed. "You're not real," I whispered, half a prayer, half a plea. "I am. But not in the way you knew." Then he reached for me. I flinched but didn't step back. His fingers hovered just above mine, close enough to feel their warmth, not a ghost, not a dream. "I'm caught in the fold between moments," he said. "I exist, but only where the rift breathes. I use the last of my anchor to reach this version of the ship, to reach you." The cold returned, fiercer now. I wanted to believe. Every part of me screamed to collapse into his arms and pretend the universe made sense again. But cLIcK, my cLIcK wasn't whole. His form shimmered in places, flickered like candlelight in wind. "How long?" I asked. "Minutes, maybe less." The folds collapsing. I had to see you again, to say I'm sorry. I didn't cry. There was no time. Instead, I stepped forward and rested my forehead against his, and for a heartbeat, we were back in the obsidian fields of Thera 9, chasing storms and telling each other lies about forever. "You left me," I said again, but softer. I never meant to. He pulled something from his belt, small, glowing, pulsing like a heartbeat. "It's a memory stone," he said. "All of me, my thoughts, my voice, the last things I wanted you to know if you make it home." "No," I cut in, "when I make it." He smiled for the first time since the rift took him, and it shattered me more than any goodbye ever could. The ship lurched, a pressure wave hit like thunder. His form began to splinter, light bleeding from his skin like sand through fingers. "I love you, Rhea." I didn't have time to say it back. He was gone. No sound, no scream, just the silence again. But this time I wasn't alone in it. The stone pulsed in my hand. Later I listened. And it was him, not a recording him, whispering poetry he used to write in margins, singing the off-key song we made up in zero gravity, talking to me like I'd never left his side. The stars kept spinning and I kept breathing, waiting for the knock that might never come again. But the next time they tell me the quiet will drive me mad, I'll just smile, because in the silence between stars, he still loves me, and I still hear him. Always.
They say the city of Alareth only falls once when its last ember dies, but I've watched it crumble twice now, once in fire and once in silence. I was the High Scribe's daughter, though that meant little after the Night Glass War. When the towers fell and the river ran black with spell blood, I fled with what I could carry. A satchel of grimoires, a silver pendant still warm from his neck, and the boy who wasn't supposed to live. His name was cLIcK. He wasn't born of the city. He came from the Frostlands with eyes like glacier fire and hands that sparked when he was angry. The mages called him a mistake, a breach born, a fracture in the weave of magic too dangerous to exist. But he was the only one who ever looked at me like I wasn't made of duty. We found shelter in the ruin of the old watchtower near Hollowmere, where the wind carried the scent of burnt lilac and every shadow felt like it remembered what we'd lost. I taught him how to control the shimmer in his veins. He taught me how to forget the weight of legacy. We stitched a life together out of ash and spells, and for a time it was enough, until it wasn't. The sickness came in autumn. Magic wrought the price for staying too close to the broken ley lines. My hair thinned, my hands shook when I wrote cLIcK begged me to leave, to head west with the refugees, but I couldn't. Alareth might have fallen, but something still pulsed beneath her bones, a secret. One night, he found me bent over the ancient tablet we salvaged from the ruins. "You're not looking for healing," he said, voice low. "You're trying to bring it back." "I can," I whispered. "I think I can rebind the core, restart the weave." "And what then?" "You burned for it." "I was born for it." He didn't argue. He just touched my face, soft, reverent, and left before morning. I told myself he'd return. I left the lantern lit. I spoke his name every dusk like it was a spell that could tether him to this world. Days passed, then weeks, then winter. When the warding circle finally cracked, I didn't even cry. I walked into the buried heart of Alareth, into the ash-choked vault where the city's last breath waited behind obsidian doors etched with names I wasn't brave enough to read. I used blood to open it, my own. Inside, I found the ember core still glowing, still alive. But I wasn't alone. cLIcK stood there, barefoot, shirtless, eyes burning like a twin sun. He looked unchanged, except for the threads of fire coiled around his ribs, threading through his veins like vines. "I didn't leave you," he said before I could speak. "I became what you needed." He touched the ember core. It pulsed. "You bound yourself to it," I whispered. "I had to. The city needed a soul, it needed an anchor, and he had given it his own." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have tried to stop me." He was right. I would have even now. I wanted to pull him away from the fire, from the eternal loop of pain and magic that hummed behind his heartbeat. But his hands didn't shake. Mine did. "I came to sacrifice myself to reignite it," I said quietly. "I know, but it already has a flame." He smiled. "It needs more than one," and then he stepped back. "I can't hold it alone anymore," he said, voice splintering. "If I let go, it dies." I took a breath that felt like breaking. "Then we share it." He stared at me. "You'll fade slowly, but not fade," I said. "Burn with you." And so I did. We bound ourselves to the city's heart, two souls entwined in flame and memory. The ember core surged, and I felt the streets above tremble. Lights blinked on the wind, shifted. Alareth breathed. It wasn't resurrection, it was rebirth, and we were part of her now. They say if you walk the riverside in Alareth at dusk, you can hear laughter echo between the towers. Two voices, one bright, one deep, like sparks dancing in wind. They say the city no longer sleeps, that her magic glows stronger than ever. But they don't know why. They don't know what it cost, and they'll never know the last words he whispered before the binding took him fully. I didn't come from Alareth, but you did, and loving you made me belong to her. I return to that moment often, not with regret, not even sorrow, because I feel him still, in the warmth of stone, in the flicker of flame, in the place where silence used to live. And I whisper his name like it's the only spell that ever mattered. cLIcK. Still here, still burning, still mine. They say the orchard is cursed, but no one says it out loud. They just stop speaking when they pass the gates. Weather-worn stone carved with the same sigils I used to trace in my sleep. And sometimes when the wind is just right, you can hear the bells. Not the kind made of iron or brass. No, these ring like breath caught in sorrow. That's where I met him again. The boy who vanished beneath the flood of the White River 7 years ago. The boy they mourned in silence, the boy I never stopped waiting for. I had walked the edge of the orchard countless times, fingers grazing the invisible wall where magic kept the world at bay. No one crossed it, not after what happened to the others. They said the trees drink memory, that the fruit inside isn't for mortals. But grief makes you brave, or reckless, or maybe both. I crossed on the night the moon fractured. Everyone saw it. The clean break across its silver face, like something had tried to split heaven open. I took it as a sign. Packed nothing, spoke no goodbyes. The moment I stepped past the stone threshold, the air changed. It smelled like winter and forgotten things. The trees were bone pale, their leaves ink dark, their trunks humming with a sound I felt more than heard. And there, under the twisted bough of the oldest tree, stood Elias. Same soft mouth, same charcoal eyes, same scar under his left brow from the day we both fell through the ice on Lake Haven, and he carried me out, teeth chattering, skin blue. He looked older, but not 7 years older. More like the time had curved around him, warping gently instead of pulling him forward like it did the rest of us. I didn't run to him. I just whispered, "You remember me." He blinked, nodded once. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice like the hush of snowfall. I waited. I replied, throat tight, "Every year, every season." He looked at me for a long time before asking, "Do you still dream of the fire?" I did. Even now, I smell the smoke, feel the heat crawling up the walls of the old schoolhouse where we used to sneak away after dusk. I never told anyone I'd seen him there that night. Watching the flames from the woods, eyes hollow, I thought I'd imagined it, a trick of grief, but now I knew. "You never drowned," I said. "No." "Then why? Why did they find your coat in the river?" He turned away, shoulders tightening, because I needed to disappear. The orchard swayed around us like it was listening. I couldn't control it. He said, quieter, "The magic, it grew too fast, too wild. The fire was just the start. I heard someone." He didn't say who. He didn't have to. I remembered her mirror, the tutor who pulled me from the wreckage, the one who stopped coming to town after that, who never walked again. I came here to stop it. Elias said, "The orchard binds you, calms you, but it also takes." Takes what? He looked up, and for the first time I saw the hollowness behind his eyes, not empty, just echoing pieces of who you were. I stepped closer, the grass curling beneath my boots like it remembered me. "I don't care," I said, "if it means being near you again." He smiled, then soft tragic. "You always said things like that even when you didn't understand them." I reached for his hand. It was warm, solid, real. And still, something was wrong. His skin shimmered faintly where it touched mine. Like candlelight underwater, I felt the weight of his presence, but not the rhythm of it. No pulse, no breath, just warmth. "Elias, when did you come here?" He didn't answer, just turned, leading me deeper into the orchard, where the air thickened and time forgot its shape. We walked in silence for what felt like minutes or hours. I saw things in the trees, glimpses, memories not my own. A child crying in the rain, a woman stitching light into a tapestry, a battle in a snowstorm where the snow fell upward. And then I saw myself, standing at the edge of the white river, holding his coat, screaming. But not 7 years ago. Now, I stumbled back, heart in my throat. "No." I whispered, "That can't be." Elias knelt beside a tree whose trunk was carved with the rune of ending. He pressed his hand to the bark, and something within it glowed. "I didn't bring you here," he said. "You were already coming." What does that mean? He finally looked at me, and I knew. I hadn't crossed the orchard. I had been called to it. The moment I saw the moon split, the moment I stepped into the water, the orchard didn't exist in the world of the living. It was what came after. "I drowned," I said, voice hollow. "You slipped," he said, gently, just like I did. I closed my eyes. Not in fear, but in relief. I thought I'd never find you again. "You always would have," he said. "The orchard remembers love." I don't know how long we stayed there, hands entwined under the hush of trees that bloom with memory. Time doesn't move the same past the veil.